Factually inaccurate.
Morally correct. This is Babylon Bee Radio. Our top story. After John Durham's newly released report confirmed the Trump-Russia collusion narrative was entirely fabricated, several notable media figures admitted they lied to the American people for 3 years, but promised that they're totally telling the truth about everything else. I would never lie to the American people, except for that one time. That doesn't count, said CBS News anchor Scott Pelley. Just look at how serious and trustworthy my face is. Look at my sincere gaze as I stare soulfully into the camera and deliver my prepared lines with the gravitas of a real truth-teller. Come on.
You can still trust us.
Agreed CNN anchor and part-time anonymous message footboard model Jake Tapper.
Even though we divided the country in hatred and anger for 3 years to try to destroy Trump over a false narrative, and then continued to do so even after we found out it was fake, and then insulted the intelligence of everyone who was skeptical about what we were saying. It doesn't mean we would ever lie to you or anything.
Media-approved anonymous sources claim that 10 out of 10 media experts agree that in spite of the lies about Trump and Russia, Americans should still unquestionably believe every claim the media makes about Ukraine, COVID, domestic terrorism, the 2020 election, and who's a racist and who isn't. At Airtime, Joy Reid also chimed in, saying everyone who doesn't agree with her is a racist. The mainstream media has been heaping praise on President Biden for finally drawing a larger crowd than former President Trump. According to reports, hundreds of thousands are gathering in El Paso, and it's all because of President Biden.
These are truly historic numbers we're seeing. Trump could never get this many people, even at his biggest rallies,
said CNN anchor Anderson Cooper.
This is an incredible moment for President Biden. He's clearly resonating with the American people, well, the people anyway, and it's clear that his policies are making a real difference.
MSNBC's Rachel Maddow added,
"This just goes to show that people are hungry for real leadership and real strength. President Biden is clearly delivering on that front."
Just look at how young of a crowd Biden pulls. All those unaccompanied minors. Democrat voters. And it's all thanks to Biden.
When asked for comment, even Trump had to admit that it was a tremendous and unbelievably large crowd of people that, to be quite frank with you, I could never draw, believe me. At a joint press conference with Trade Federation representatives, Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas assured the nation that wave after wave of transport ships descending to the surface of the planet carrying heavily armed battle droids is, quote, definitely not an invasion.
There's no reason for anyone to be concerned about the landing craft that are disgorging hover tanks that are then executing pincer movements around American cities. The droids in those tanks are merely seeking jobs, health care, and a better life for their families.
When asked about reports of destroyer droids rolling through American cities and shooting everything that moves, Trade Federation Viceroy Newt Gunray responded,
The term destroyer droid is an oppressive relic of white supremacy. We prefer the term cargo droid, and they have every right to roll wherever they want in search of jobs and health care. This talk about shooting things is just a distraction from the real enemy, Kyle Rittenhouse.
An invasion would be something unwelcome. This is completely different. Any community should be happy to welcome these newcomers who will help to mow our lawns and wash our cars and only occasionally blow stuff off.
Governor C.O. Bibbles. This is ridiculous. Of course it's an invasion. There was a communications disruption, which can mean only one thing. Invasion. Experts, however, disputed his comments, pointing out that communications disruptions can be caused by a variety of things, from spotty cell phone service to driving under an overpass, but yes, also sometimes an invasion. Authorities say they aren't quite sure what to make of the, quote, totally Mexican man they picked up who identifies himself as Mohammed Sanchez. According to sources, he crossed the U.S.-Mexico border with a caravan of undocumented immigrants, but drew a lot of attention to himself because of his thick beard, turban, and what he claimed was a, quote, purely decorative AK-47.
Yeah, this guy. I don't know, something's off about him. He looks Mexican. Sorry, Latinx. But he doesn't speak a lick of Spanish. Also, he was carrying a Quran, which I guess is a Muslim choose-your-own-adventure book or something. I don't know. Pretty sure Latinx people don't read those weird squiggly words. On the other hand, his last name is Sanchez, and he says he's super Mexican. I'm not sure where to go on this one.
Also concerning was the manifesto found on Sanchez's person, which describes a passion for killing infidels and calls for, quote, the great Satan to be wiped off the face of the earth. However, Sanchez maintains the manifesto is merely fan fiction for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas says that Biden has been briefed on the matter but would like to avoid making any decisions before the election. Mohamed Sanchez was eventually released from custody and asked to please come back for a hearing in 3 months.
Yeah, I think it's clear if he doesn't return, that will be a clear sign that he was an international terrorist.
Said a spokesperson for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
It may be the only way to find out for sure.
Terror has rocked a small Moblin treehouse community after Gary L., a beloved Moblin relaxing by the campfire, was slain by a wandering psychopath. The crazed murderer is reported to be wearing green, carrying a shield with a rusty sword awkwardly fused to it, and can be heard grunting a lot.
We was just sitting there enjoying a meal of fresh traveling mutton when all of a sudden, wham!
Said a mournful Firebreath Lizalthos, describing the attack by the blonde little madman.
I is so distraught I can't even finish my beetle leg.
Moblin authorities say this is not the first attack by the violent young Hylian, nor will it be the last.
We saw patterns like this back in 2017 when, for no apparent reason, grunting little Hylians began terrorizing peaceful communities of Bokoblins, Moblins, and Stalkoblins. Even those hippie hermit Lionels were targeted.
A raid on the campsite of the crazed serial killer revealed he'd been cooking Moblin parts into potions, claiming they gave him superpowers. After controversial comments that spooked investors in Tesla and Twitter, Elon Musk has finally come forward to apologize to Magneto for comparing him to the dastardly villain George Soros. I would like to say that I'm sorry to Max Eisenhardt, also known as Magneto. My comparison was unfair. While Magneto is a conflicted and misunderstood character with real human motivations you can empathize with, Soros is an insane cartoon villain with an inhuman hatred for humanity. Not even close to the same person. The Anti-Defamation League thanked Elon for the apology and expressed hope that he will do better in the future. It's unfair to compare anyone, living or dead, to that evil, hollow shell of a man known as Soros. We certainly hope Mr. Musk chooses his words more wisely in the future, okay? When reached for comment, Soros responded by catching a fly out of the air with his tongue and asking one of his servants to turn up his heat lamp. In an effort to finally clean up the streets, San Francisco announced plans to release several packs of monkeys into the city to help fling away all the poo.
We all know monkeys like to throw poo. We have lots of poo. It's a match made in heaven.
Sanitation Director John Hawkins said the program will strategically deploy groups of monkeys to HPAs, or high poo areas, throughout the city.
Each HPA will have its own designated team of monkeys for poo flinging. All the monkeys have been screened for throwing ability and love for poo. I'm really proud of the crew we've assembled.
While many San Francisco residents welcome the news, those living in upscale Presidio Heights district were less enthusiastic.
This is primate gentrification at its worst. We are literally taking the produce of our sweet, unsheltered residents and giving it to monkeys. Also, monkeys don't have that great of a name. Don't ask me how I know. But I know.
The monkeys broke several windows with poo flinging, but fortunately the buildings were all abandoned storefronts. Local father Stephen Taylor has become concerned that going to church could really intrude on his 11-year-old's travel baseball schedule.
With practice 7 nights a week and 43 tournaments this summer, church just feels like a lot. If we only make 37 tournaments because of church, I mean, that could really hamper Sammy's development.
The Taylor family had attended a church faithfully over the past decade up until 6 months ago when their son Sammy received the groundbreaking invite to play catcher for a second-tier 12-year-old and under club baseball team. With the high cost of club baseball, the Taylor family has also reportedly taken out a reverse mortgage on their home to pay for travel.
It's a risky move, but totally worth it. We've had to give up several friendships since we're never available to hang out, but it will all pay off next year when Sammy is sitting in the dugout wearing that top-flight Jimmy John sponsored jersey.
At airtime, the Taylor family decided to pull Sammy out of school to better focus on baseball. After catching his teenage son looking at pornography, local father Daniel Gouge sat his son down for a heart-to-heart talk before meting out justice by giving him a copy of the latest swimsuit issue of Sports Illustrated, which features Martha Stewart on the cover. Son, women are not objects. And I'm afraid the only way to help you understand that is by showing you Martha Stewart in a saucy bikini.
Dad!
Look at her son.
No, my punishment is too great to bear.
She's 81, older than grandma.
Please don't make me look at Martha Stewart in a swimsuit. Please!
Unfortunately for him, the matter had been settled by both his father and the cultural zeitgeist currently sweeping America. Gouge left his son alone with the magazine to, quote, think about what he'd done, threatening his son that if it happens again, he'll make him read a copy of the Victoria's Secret catalog featuring Megan Rapinoe.
Gross!
A local husband assured his wife this week that he was only reading Song of Solomon to study profound theological doctrine, not to check out the, interesting bits. Mark Miller claims he was reading Song of Solomon to study spiritual metaphors during his morning scripture study when his wife Cindy glanced over his shoulder and expressed concern over the lewd material he was reading. I promise, honey, I'm only reading it for the doctrine. I'm skipping over all the stuff about, well, you know. Cindy noted that Mark had underlined a passage comparing the author's love to, quote, a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. Mark assured her that he was just researching the love God shows forth to the children of Israel, and definitely not looking at any of the, more salacious passages. I rarely look at Song of Solomon. I only peeked at it this one time to see if there were any good gospel analogies I missed in previous viewings. I'm not a creep. What? I'm not! Cindy asked her husband if he'd consider setting up a content blocker on his Bible app to curtail temptation during future study sessions. Mark says he'll think about it, but that he definitely doesn't have a problem or anything and can absolutely stop reading Song of Solomon anytime he wants. As the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America celebrates a growing number of progressive positions, local Lutheran man Cliff Christofferson wants to clarify that he's one of the weird ones who still believes the Bible. Christofferson identifies as a, quote, practicing Lutheran, which is basically a non-practicing Catholic, but insists that as a member of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, he should not be associated with the rainbow flag-wearing heretics in the ELCA.
They allow gay marriage, they have female pastors, they let any riffraff off the street take communion, they even affirm transgender ideology. As a Lutheran who believes in the doctrine of sola scriptura, I accept the biblical condemnation of homosexuality. But I don't hate gay people like the Westboro Baptist Lutheran Synod.
Christofferson also wants to distance himself from the blasphemous practices of the other 40 Lutheran synods, such as the Canadian Lutheran Church, which says sorry instead of sorry when confessing sins, and the New Jersey Synod, which allows spray tanning in church. Although Christofferson devoutly reads scripture, like many Lutherans, his other Christian reading is lacking. When asked to name his favorite work by Martin Luther, Christofferson replied,
Probably his I Have a Dream speech.
At airtime, a member of the Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod came forward to accuse Christofferson of heresy, since, quote, the woke leftist Missouri Synod allows women to vote. B-Radio features officially curated content from the Babylon Bee. Scripted, voiced, and produced by Austin Robertson. Additional voices in this episode from Brandon, Eli, Jared, Robin, and Travis. Subscribe to B-Radio on YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts, and be among the first to hear brand new episodes.